Be me, Ethan. 35. I work as a hotel night manager. Not the glamorous kind of hotel where celebrities throw sunglasses at interns. Just a clean business hotel near the airport with conference rooms, tired sales reps, delayed pilots, and families arguing quietly over breakfast vouchers. Most of my job happens while the city is asleep. A guest loses a key card at 2 in the morning. A fire alarm battery starts chirping on the third floor. Someone wants extra towels like it is an emergency medical supply. You learn to stay calm. You learn that most problems become smaller when you stop reacting like they are bigger. That was always my nature anyway. Quiet, steady, useful. I did not need applause for fixing things. I just liked knowing things were handled. That was probably how I ended up in Mia's orbit. Mia was not my girlfriend. That is important. She was very clear about that. Whenever anyone assumed we were together, she corrected them immediately. "We're just friends," she would say, always with a little laugh, always like the idea was absurd, and for a long time I accepted that. Because I thought friendship meant something solid. I thought it meant mutual care. I thought it meant two people showing up for each other without turning it into a transaction. I met Mia through my cousin's birthday dinner. She arrived late, wearing a red coat and carrying herself like every room owed her attention. She had this sharp, bright energy that made normal conversation feel like a scene from a movie. She was funny in a cutting way, smart, confident, the kind of woman who could say something slightly cruel and make everyone laugh before they realized it had teeth. At dinner, she sat across from me and asked why I looked like I was quietly judging the restaurant lighting. I said I managed a hotel, so bad lighting felt personal. She laughed. That was how it started. We talked for most of the night. She told me she worked in social media strategy for a wellness brand. She said it was mostly pretending oat milk had a political mission. I liked her immediately, maybe too much. The next week, she added me on Instagram. Then she messaged me about some hotel horror story she had seen online. Then we started talking almost every day. At first it felt natural, easy. She would text me during my night shifts when she could not sleep. I would answer between guest requests. She would send voice notes about her day. I would listen while walking the quiet hallways, checking that side doors were locked. I learned her coffee order, her favorite Thai place, her complicated relationship with her mother, the way she got anxious before presentations and hid it by acting bored. She learned that I drank too much black coffee, that I liked old jazz records, that I had been saving for a small house because apartment walls made me feel temporary. Within 3 months, I was the person she called for everything. Bad day at work, fight with a friend, flat tire, furniture delivery, panic before a meeting, a guy she liked taking too long to text back. That last one should have told me everything, but emotions are not known for respecting evidence. I liked her, not in some vague, harmless way. I liked her in the way where you start remembering tiny details that nobody asked you to remember. If she said she had a stressful week, I dropped off soup from the place she liked. If she had a presentation, I sent a good luck text before it started. If she needed a ride from the airport, I adjusted my sleep schedule and showed up with coffee. She accepted all of it, gratefully sometimes, casually most of the time. Like my care was just part of the weather. One night after I picked her up from a terrible date with some guy named Connor, who apparently talked about cryptocurrency and his healing journey for 2 straight hours, she cried in my passenger seat. She said she was tired of emotionally unavailable men. She said she wished she could find someone kind, someone consistent, someone safe. I kept both hands on the wheel and said she deserved that. She looked at me for a second. There was something in that look, something soft. Then she leaned her head against the window and said, "You're such a good friend, Ethan." Friend. There it was. The little fence around the whole property. I told myself it was fine. I told myself feelings were not contracts. I told myself being good to someone did not entitle me to anything, and that was true. Still, truth can be used as a blanket to cover a wound you refuse to clean. Eventually, my friends noticed. My cousin Aaron noticed first. He saw me leave a poker night early because Mia texted that she was overwhelmed and wanted company. He asked if we were dating. I said no. He asked if I wanted to date her. I did not answer quickly enough. He sighed like he had just watched a man step into traffic. He said, "Brother, you're doing boyfriend labor on an unpaid internship." I laughed it off, but the sentence stayed with me. Boyfriend labor, unpaid internship. That was exactly what it was. Mia had access to all the emotional benefits of a relationship without giving me any of the clarity, loyalty, or commitment. She could call me at midnight, but I could not ask where I stood. She could cry on my shoulder about men, but I could not ask why I was never considered one. She could say she needed me, but only in ways that did not require her to choose me. The first direct conversation happened after her birthday. She had organized a dinner with 12 people. I helped her set it up. I called the restaurant twice to adjust the reservation. I picked up the cake because she forgot. I drove her home afterward because she drank too much Prosecco and her heels were hurting. At her apartment, she hugged me for a long time. Not a quick hug, a real one. The kind that makes silence feel dangerous. Then she pulled back and said, "I don't know what I'd do without you." I looked at her and said, "Mia, what are we doing?" Her face changed immediately, not dramatically, just enough, like a door locking quietly. She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I mean this." I said, "The calls, the texts, the emotional support, me being the person you rely on for everything." She crossed her arms. She said, "We're friends." I said, "I know that's what you call it." That hurt her pride. She said she hated when men pretended to be friends just because they wanted something more. She said it was manipulative. She said women should be allowed to have emotionally intimate friendships with men without those men making it weird. I listened. I really listened. Because part of what she said was fair. Nobody owes anyone romance. Nobody owes anyone attraction. Friendship should not be a trick. So I said, "You're right." She relaxed slightly. Then I said, "So I need to stop acting like something I'm not." She asked what that meant. I said I had feelings for her. I said I could not keep being her almost boyfriend while she dated other men and brought me the cleanup work. She looked offended. She said, "So you're punishing me because I don't want to date you?" I said no. I said I was changing my behavior because the current arrangement was not healthy for me. She said that sounded transactional. I said maybe boundaries always sound transactional to people who enjoyed the free part. That was sharper than I intended. Her eyes flashed. She said, "Wow." Then came the speech. She said my reaction proved men only value women when sex or romance is on the table. She said I had reduced years of friendship to whether I could possess her. She said she thought I was different. That one landed. I had spent years being proud of being different from the men she complained about. Different meant patient. Different meant available. Different meant never asking for too much. Different, I was starting to understand, meant convenient. I did not argue. I just said, "I care about you, but I need distance." She said, "Fine." Then she added, "But don't expect me to chase you." The irony was almost beautiful. I said, "I don't." I went home that night feeling like I had done something cruel and necessary. The next few days were strange. I did not text first. I did not check her stories. I did not ask about the presentation she had been nervous about. I did not offer to come over when she posted something vague about being surrounded by fake people. I just went to work, answered guests, balanced the night audit, drank my bad hotel coffee, went home, slept. The quiet felt uncomfortable at first, then it started to feel clean. Mia lasted 4 days. She texted, "So are we really not talking now?" I wrote, "I think space is good." She replied, "This is so immature." I did not answer. An hour later, she sent, "I just think it's sad that you would throw away a friendship because I set a boundary." That was when I realized how skilled she was at language. Her boundary was rejecting romance. My boundary was stepping back from emotional dependency. Only one of those was being treated as valid. I wrote, I respect your boundary, and I'm setting mine. She did not like that. For the next few weeks, she tried to restore the old arrangement without naming it. She sent memes. I reacted with a thumbs up. She sent long voice notes about work drama. I replied, "That sounds stressful. Hope it works out." She asked if I could help move a bookshelf. I said I was working and suggested a task app. She asked if I could look over a message she was sending to some guy. I said I was probably not the best person for that. Each time she got colder. Each time I felt a little lighter. Then she started dating Connor again, the crypto healing guy. I found out because she posted a picture of 2 cocktails with the caption, "Giving people grace." I did not react. 3 days later, she texted me at 1 in the morning. "Ethan, are you awake?" I was. Night shift, front desk. A delayed flight crew had just checked in, and one of them was arguing with the vending machine. Old me would have replied instantly. New me looked at the message and waited. Then she wrote, "Connor is being weird." I stared at those words. There it was again, the emergency entrance, the little door she always opened when another man disappointed her. I typed, "I'm at work, hope you're okay." She replied, "Seriously?" I did not answer. She called. I let it ring. Not out of cruelty, because I knew if I answered, I would become the emotional ambulance again. The next morning, she sent a paragraph. She said she could not believe I ignored her when she was upset. She said I had changed. She said I was proving her right about male friendship. I replied once, "I am no longer available for boyfriend-level support while being kept as just a friend." She did not respond for 2 days. Then she posted a quote about people revealing their true colors when they no longer benefit from your kindness. Maya liked it. Some guy commented a heart. I went for a run. The turning point came about 2 months later. A new woman started working at the hotel. Her name was Clara. She was the assistant event coordinator. She handled conferences, weddings, and corporate breakfast disasters. Clara was not flashy. She was warm in a grounded way. She had a dry sense of humor and an ability to stay pleasant while telling a man in a golf polo that no, the hotel could not just create an extra ballroom. We started talking during shift overlaps, nothing dramatic. She would come in early while I was finishing the night reports. I would make coffee. She would steal the better pen from the front desk and pretend she had not. One morning, she found me trying to fix the lobby printer while muttering at it like a priest at an exorcism. She asked if I always negotiated with office equipment. I said only when diplomacy failed. She laughed. Not the bright performative laugh Mia had, a real laugh, unconcerned with how it looked. Over time, Clara and I got closer, but the difference was immediate. She asked about me and remembered the answer. If she vented, she also asked if I had the energy to listen. If I helped her, she thanked me without making my help feel like an obligation. If she invited me somewhere, it was clear. No riddles, no vague signals, no emotional scavenger hunts. One morning after a rough night shift, she brought me a breakfast sandwich. I asked what it was for. She said, "You looked like you were one bad guest away from biting someone yesterday." I laughed. Then I realized something simple and embarrassing. I was not used to being noticed, not used, not needed, not summoned, not deployed, not noticed for what I could provide, just noticed. We started dating slowly, coffee after work, a walk by the river, dinner at a place where neither of us pretended to be casual about wanting dessert. I told her early about Mia, not every detail, enough. I said I had spent too long in a friendship that was not really a friendship anymore. Clara listened without turning it into a trial. She said, "Sounds like you were someone's emotional boyfriend without the title." I said my cousin called it an unpaid internship. She laughed and said, "I hope you resigned in writing." That was when I knew I liked her. With Clara, I did not have to audition for basic decency. I did not have to prove I was safe by ignoring my own needs. I did not have to stand beside her while she chose men who treated her badly and then thank her for trusting me with the aftermath. She wanted me in the room, not outside the door, not on standby, in the room. Of course, Mia found out. People always do. Someone from my cousin's group saw me and Clara at dinner. Then Mia viewed Clara's Instagram story. Then the messages started. First, casual. Is Clara your coworker? I wrote, yes. Then, are you two dating? I waited a minute. Then I wrote, yes. The typing bubbles appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, she sent, wow. I did not answer. Then came, that's fast. I looked at that and almost laughed. Fast. After years of waiting in her hallway, fast. I wrote, it has been a few months. She said, you moved on like I meant nothing. I said, I moved on because staying where I was hurt me. She said, I thought we were friends. I replied, so did I. That set her off. She called me. I almost did not answer. Then I decided one conversation might close the door properly. Her voice sounded different, less angry than scared. She asked how I could give Clara everything I had withdrawn from her. I asked what she meant. She said she had seen the pictures, me bringing Clara coffee, me helping set up a small staff birthday thing, me standing beside her at a weekend market with my hand on her back. She said, you were never like that with me. I went quiet because that was not true. And she knew it was not true. I said, Mia, I was exactly like that with you. Silence. I said, for years. More silence. Then she said, but not officially. There it was. The whole trap in 2 words, not officially. She wanted the benefits to count when she needed them and not count when I asked what they meant. I said, that's the point. She started crying. Not dramatically at first, just small breaks in her voice. She said Clara got the version of me she should have had. I said, you did have that version. I said, you just kept him in the friend zone and called him entitled when he got tired. She said that was unfair. I asked what part. She said she was confused back then. She said she cared about me but was afraid of ruining the friendship. I said she had ruined it anyway by using it as a place to store my feelings while she shopped around. That sounded brutal, but it was the cleanest sentence I had. She said, I never used you. I said, maybe not on purpose. That was the kindest version of the truth. I do not think Mia woke up every day planning to drain me. I think she just liked what I gave her. She liked my steadiness. She liked my attention. She liked knowing that no matter what some other guy did, Ethan would be there afterward with patience and soup and a ride home. She liked being loved without having to be responsible for the person loving her, but whether she meant harm or not, the result was the same. I was empty. She was comfortable. That arrangement had ended. Mia asked if I loved Clara. I said it was early, but I cared about her seriously. She made this small sound like I had closed a door in her face. Then she said, I think I made a mistake. There it was, the sentence every man in the friend zone imagines hearing, the magical reversal, the moment where she finally sees him. But in real life, it did not feel magical. It felt late. I said, I believe you. She said, that's it. I said, what do you want me to say? She said she wanted to meet. She said we should talk in person. She said there were things she never said because she was scared. I looked across my apartment. There was a jacket Clara had left on a chair because we were going to a farmer's market later. There was a text from her on my phone asking if I wanted coffee before she came over. There was my life, finally moving in a direction that did not require me to beg for a label. I told Mia no. She started crying harder. She said, so you're choosing her over me? I said no. I said, I am choosing the woman who chose me. That was the line that ended the conversation. She went quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, I didn't think you would actually leave. I closed my eyes, because that was the second time a woman had summarized my whole mistake better than I ever could. She did not think I would actually leave. She thought the friend zone was a waiting room with no closing hours. She thought I would keep paying emotional rent in a place where I was never allowed to live. She thought my hope would make me permanently available. I said, I know. Then I said goodbye. After that, the fallout came through other people. Mia told mutual friends I had abandoned her after getting a girlfriend. She said Clara was insecure and controlling. She said I had thrown away years of friendship for someone new. Aaron called me after hearing all this and asked if I wanted him to correct the record. I said no. He said, "You sure?" I said yes. I had learned something important. You do not have to defend your exit from a room where everyone watched you stand by the door for years. The people who understood already understood. The people who did not were committed to misunderstanding. Clara noticed I was quiet that week. I told her Mia had reached out. She did not get jealous. She did not interrogate me. She just asked if I was okay. That question almost broke me more than any accusation could have. I said I was. Then I said I was sad in a strange way. Not because I wanted Mia back, because I was grieving the version of myself who had waited so long. Clara took my hand and said, he was doing his best with what he knew. That was it. No lecture, no performance, just grace. 6 months later, Clara and I moved in together, a small apartment near the hotel with 2 little closet space and good morning light. We built routines, real ones, Sunday breakfast, laundry on Wednesdays, a standing Friday night dinner where phones stayed away unless the hotel was on fire. It was not perfect, no relationship is. But the effort moved both ways. If I cooked, she cleaned. If she had a hard day, I listened. If I had a hard day, she did not make it smaller. She made room for it. That was new. That was everything. One evening, about a year after Mia and I stopped talking, I saw her again. It was at my cousin's engagement party. I knew she might be there because the social circles still overlapped. I arrived with Clara. Mia was standing near the drinks table with Maya. When she saw us, her face did something small and painful. Not anger. Recognition. Clara squeezed my hand once and went to say hello to my aunt. Mia approached me a few minutes later. She looked polished. Expensive coat, perfect makeup. That same bright energy, but dimmer somehow. She said, "You look good." I said, "Thanks, you too." We stood there in the polite wreckage of what used to be constant contact. She looked over at Clara, who was laughing with my cousin's fiancé. Mia said, "She seems nice." I said, "She is." Mia nodded. Then she said, "She is lucky." I looked at her. There was a time when that sentence would have opened some hidden chamber in me. I would have searched her face for meaning. I would have wondered if she finally understood. Now I just said, "I am too." That hurt her. I could see it. Not because I meant it as a weapon, because peace is painful to people who expected you to remain unfinished without them. She said, "I miss you sometimes." I said, "I hope you're doing okay." She gave a small, sad laugh. She said, "That's such a friend thing to say." I almost smiled, not cruelly, just at the symmetry. I said, "I guess I finally learned how to be just a friend." Her eyes watered. She looked away. For a second, I felt the old instinct, comfort her, fix it, make the sadness go away. Then Clara glanced over from across the room and smiled at me. Not possessive, not suspicious, just warm. I stayed where I was. Mia wiped under one eye quickly and said, "I really did care about you." I said, "I know." She said, "I just did not know what I wanted." I said, "I know that too." Then she asked the question. If I had known back then, would things be different? I thought about it honestly. I thought about the airport pickups, the midnight calls, the birthday cake, the Connor disaster, the years of standing close enough to be needed and too far away to be chosen. Then I said, "Maybe." Her face softened with hope. Then I finished. "But you did not know, and I am not available anymore." Hope left her face quietly. That was the difference between pain and drama. Drama makes noise. Pain just accepts the bill. She nodded. She said, "She gets all of you." I said, "No." Mia looked confused. I said, "She gives all of herself, too." That was what Mia had never understood. The tragedy was not that I gave Clara what Mia wanted. The tragedy was that Mia thought love was something a man poured into her while she decided whether the container deserved a label. Clara did not get all of me because she won some competition. She got all of me because she met me with all of her. The exchange was equal. The door opened from both sides. Mia said goodbye a few minutes later. This time it sounded final. I watched her walk back to Maya, who immediately leaned in with that protective, angry friend posture. I did not care what version of the story they would tell. For once, I was not waiting to be understood by people invested in my confusion. Later that night, Clara and I drove home. She asked if I was okay. I said yes. She asked if seeing Mia was hard. I said, a little. Then I said, but not in the way I expected. Clara waited. She was good at that. I said, it felt like visiting an old hotel room after checkout. She laughed softly and said, that is very night manager of you. I said, it is true. The room still exists. The memories are there. You remember where you put your bag. You remember the view from the window. But the keycard does not work anymore, and it should not. When we got home, Clara kicked off her shoes by the door and asked if I wanted tea. I said yes. She made 2 cups. No performance, no test, no hidden scoreboard. Just 2 people ending a long night in the same kitchen. I watched her move around the apartment and felt something settle in me. For years, I thought the Friendzone was a place a woman put you, but that was only half true. It was also a place I kept myself because I confused patience with devotion and access with intimacy. Mia did not choose me. That hurt. But the real damage came from me continuing to choose someone who had already answered. The day I stopped offering husband treatment for a friendship title, my life started making sense again. Mia panicked when I finally left. Not because she loved me the way I had loved her, but because she lost the comfort of being loved without commitment, and me. I stopped waiting outside a door that was never going to open. I walked away. I found someone who unlocked hers, then I stepped inside.